After 20 years of marriage, my wife cheated on me, so I got even and made her regret it.
Hey Reddit, longtime lurker, first-time poster. Never thought I'd be sharing my own story here, but life has a way of throwing you curveballs. I guess I just need to get this off my chest. So, a bit of background. I'm Theo, and my wife Alara, and I had been counting down to our silver anniversary. 25 years. It's a long time, right? We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but our bond, it always felt special. Now Alara had this dream. Ever since we were young and broke, leafing through glossy travel magazines together in our tiny first apartment, she'd always pause at photos of Fiji, white sandy beaches, clear blue water, those little huts over the ocean. She'd get this faraway look in her eyes, and I could tell it was more than just a vacation spot for her. It was a dream. With our 25th year coming up, I thought, this is it. This is the time to make that dream come true. I wanted to see that sparkle in her eyes again, that genuine surprise. So, I started planning secretly. It took me months, saving a little on the side, researching the best resorts, and finding the perfect secluded beachfront villa. I even spoke to a local Fijian band to play our song as we arrived. It was going to be picture perfect. My heart raced every time I thought of the moment I'd reveal the surprise. Just imagining her face lighting up made all the sneaking around, the white lies about where the money was going, and the late nights of planning, worth it. It was my way of showing her, 25 years, and I'd still move mountains for you. So, with everything set, I hid the tickets inside a scrapbook I'd made, our life story and photos, starting from our awkward first date to now. The last page was going to be a picture of Fiji with the caption, "The next chapter." I thought it was cheesy, but in a good way. And as D-Day approached, I was buzzing with excitement. But, as you've probably guessed, things didn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. That part comes later. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. I'll update you all with part 2 soon. Hey again, Reddit. Wow. I wasn't expecting such a response to my last post. I appreciate all the support, truly. It's helping more than I thought it would. Okay, deep breath. Here goes part 2. Work has always been my escape. When things at home got tough, or I just needed to clear my head, diving into a project helped. I'm in software development, and my team is a close-knit bunch. We've pulled too many all-nighters and tackled too many impossible tasks not to be. There's Bryn, our witty and sometimes too blunt lead designer. There's Jana, the team's caffeine-fueled coder. A few others, and then there's me. It was a Thursday, I think. One of those days where lunchtime comes and goes and you don't even notice. We were in the break room, me, Bryn, and a couple of others. I was talking about how Alara had been working late a lot recently and how I missed our evening walks. Bryn, sipping his overpriced latte, just casually said, "Speaking of late nights, it's weird, isn't it?" I looked up, a bit confused. "What do you mean?" Bryn shrugged. Alara and Lucan, they sure spend a lot of time together. More than just colleague time, if you catch my drift. He had this smirk, like he was in on some inside joke I wasn't privy to. Now I knew Lucan. He was part of Alara's department. We'd hung out a few times at company parties. Seemed like an all-right guy. Alara mentioned him now and then, usually work stuff. They collaborated on projects, friends, right? But Bryn's comment, it just lingered, like a tiny annoying mosquito buzz that you can't quite locate. I tried to brush it off. "They're just friends, probably working on some big project," I said, forcing a laugh. Bryn just raised an eyebrow. "If you say so, man." I wished then that he was just being his usual, trying to get a rise out of people's self. But as the days went on, I noticed things. Whispers around the office, glances exchanged. Alara becoming a bit more distant, her phone always face down. Had I been so wrapped up in my plans that I missed something so significant happening right under my nose? The seeds of doubt, as you guys rightly pointed out in the comments, were planted. And believe me, they began to grow, fast. Until next time, Reddit. Part 3 is a doozy. Edit. To those saying Bryn might have his own motives, I never thought of it that way. But trust me, the story only gets more tangled from here. Back again, Reddit. I've been going through your comments from the last post, and it's both comforting and horrifying to see that some of you have experienced similar situations. Let's dive into where the real unease began. Remember when things in life were simple? Like when your biggest concern was whether you wanted pepperoni or cheese on your pizza? Yeah, those days felt far behind me. The house that once echoed with laughter and shared secrets became thick with tension. It felt like trying to breathe underwater. Alara's phone seemed like it was always buzzing. Late-night messages, early morning pings, more than I'd ever noticed before. And each time she'd subtly angle the screen away from me, or exit rooms when taking calls. The once open book of our life together was slowly being replaced by locked diaries. One evening, trying to rekindle our old habits, I suggested, "How about we watch that new movie you've been talking about?" She looked distracted, fingers tapping away at her phone. "Who's texting so late?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just work stuff," she murmured, her gaze never leaving the screen. I took a deep breath. "Is it Lucan?" The way she looked up, eyes wide and a bit defensive, said more than her words did. "Why would you ask that? It's just some project updates," she said, a tad too quickly, before changing the topic to something about the neighbor's cat. Late nights at the office became the norm. Alara, who used to rush home to our cozy dinner and movie nights, started coming home long after I'd fallen asleep. When she did come to bed, she'd turn away, diving deep into her thoughts, miles away from where I was. Remember Bryn's little hint? I felt like a fool for not taking it seriously. Every fiber of my being screamed that something was off, but I tried to tell myself that it was just work stress or maybe the looming anniversary was making her anxious. Yeah, I know, denial isn't just a river in Egypt. I confided in my best friend Jackson. We'd been bros since college. He'd been my wingman when I first met Alara. Over a couple of beers, I laid it all out. He listened, deep in thought, and finally said, "Man, you need to talk to her. Straight up. No games." I knew he was right. But was I ready for the answers? Hey, Reddit fam. I've been dreading this part, but the story wouldn't be complete without it. So, here's how the floor fell out from under my world. It was a Saturday. Our home, usually alive with weekend energy, was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. Alara was in the shower, and I was lounging on the couch, diving into some much-needed gaming to distract myself from, well, everything. As I was reaching for my controller, I saw Alara's purse topple from the counter. Out spilled its contents: her wallet, some lipstick, random receipts, and a folded piece of paper. Normally, I'd never invade her privacy, but something about that paper caught my eye. The handwriting wasn't hers. I picked it up and noticed it was addressed to her, from Lucan. "Alara," it began. My heart raced as I read on. "Every stolen moment with you makes me feel alive. Our secret meetings at the park, the thrill of hiding from the world, it's intoxicating. When I'm near you, everything else fades. How do you feel when we're together?" I felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. Each word was like a dagger, stabbing at my very core. I read and reread the letter, hoping I had somehow misunderstood, hoping it was some cruel joke. But it wasn't. The undeniable truth was there, in black and white. A whirlwind of emotions hit me. Anger, sadness, disbelief. The room seemed to spin. Was this really happening? Were the last 25 years just meaningless? I heard the water stop, signaling the end of Alara's shower. Panic set in. Do I confront her now? Do I wait? Is this the moment our quarter-century together comes crashing down? I quickly placed the letter back amidst the scattered contents of her purse, making it seem undisturbed. I needed time to think. As she walked into the room, I could barely look at her. Every smile, every touch, every memory was now tainted with doubt. But I kept my poker face, not letting on about my discovery. That night, lying beside her, I felt more alone than ever. Sleep eluded me. The haunting words from that letter replayed in my mind, each iteration causing a fresh wave of pain. I'll leave this update here, Reddit. It's hard to relive, but you've been a great source of support. I promise, part 5 is coming soon, and you won't believe the confrontation. Edit. For those of you suggesting I should have confronted her right away, believe me, I wanted to. But sometimes, the weight of reality holds you back. Hey Reddit. First, I want to thank you all for the kind messages and advice on my previous posts. They've been a beacon in a very dark time. So, here's how the confrontation went down. I spent days in a haze after finding that letter. Every interaction with Alara felt like a charade as I grappled with the anger and hurt boiling inside me. I played the scenarios over and over in my mind. But one evening, as we sat across from each other at dinner, the weight of the silence was too much to bear. With the letter clenched in my hand, I looked at Alara, took a deep breath, and asked, "What's going on between you and Lucan?" Her eyes widened in shock. For a split second, I thought I saw guilt flash across her face, but she quickly masked it. "What do you mean?" she replied, feigning innocence. I placed the letter on the table. "This, Alara, what is this?" She stared at the letter, her face turning pale. "Theo, it's not what it looks like," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Then please," I said, my voice trembling with emotion, "tell me what it is." For a moment, she was silent, collecting herself. We just became close, you know? We shared things, thoughts, feelings, but it wasn't supposed to be this way. I felt a sharp sting of betrayal. Shared feelings? What about our feelings? Our memories? Did they mean nothing to you? Alara cried, "I never meant to hurt you. It was a mistake." But her words felt empty, especially when juxtaposed with the raw emotions in Lucan's letter. She tried to gaslight me further. "We're just really close friends, Theo. You're blowing this out of proportion. You always get so jealous." Close friends? After everything I had seen and felt? "Alara, don't insult my intelligence. Close friends don't write letters like this." She looked defeated, avoiding my eyes. "I'm so sorry, Theo," she whispered. But was she sorry for the act or sorry for being caught? The line between reality and deception had blurred so much, I couldn't tell anymore. That night, our house, which had been a sanctuary of love and trust, felt like a prison of doubts and broken dreams. I'll continue soon, Reddit. Writing this out is therapeutic in a way, but also so damn painful. I need a break. All right, Reddit, I'm back. Buckle up, because this part is, well, just read. The day after the confrontation with Alara, I felt lost. Part of me was desperate for an explanation, something more than Alara's half-hearted apologies. Lucan was the other side of this twisted equation. I needed to hear his side of the story. After some digging, I managed to find his contact. We agreed to meet at a cafe in downtown Boston, away from prying eyes. I remember the place was buzzing with activity, people chatting, the sound of coffee machines hissing, the clinking of cutlery. Yet, in my world, everything was silent except for the throbbing pain in my chest. Lucan looked uneasy when I walked in. As we sat down, he took a deep breath. "Before you say anything," he started, "I want to apologize." My face was a mask of anger. "Go on," I replied curtly. He sighed, looking down at his hands. This started as a stupid game. Some friends and I, we had this sick challenge." He hesitated. "To see who could get close to someone's wife, to see if we could steal them away." I stared, my jaw dropping. "You're telling me my life, my love, was just a pawn in your twisted game?" Lucan nodded, shame evident in his eyes. "Yes, but it spiraled, Theo. It became something more than just a game. Feelings got involved. It got complicated." Rage bubbled up inside me. "So my 25 years with Alara was just a joke to you? Some competition?" He flinched. "I never meant for it to go this far. I should have stopped. But, as I said, feelings got involved." "Feelings?" I spat. "What about my feelings? Alara's feelings?" He looked down, defeated. "I can't justify what I did. I messed up." The enormity of what he confessed was too much to handle. My wife wasn't just having an affair. It was a challenge for him, a game. A part of me wanted to lash out, to shout, to vent all my pain. But another part was just numb. I got up, leaving Lucan in the cafe, struggling with his guilt, or whatever it was he felt. The days following the cafe revelation were the darkest I've ever had to endure. Everywhere I turned, the weight of betrayal pressed down on me. But with that pain came a fierce determination. I was done being the victim in their twisted game. It was time to flip the script. I crafted a plan, one that'd serve them a cold dish of revenge. I called Alara, my voice purposefully cheerful. How about a pre-anniversary dinner? A fresh start for both of us. I'd like Lucan to be there too. Let's clear the air. She sounded relieved, perhaps thinking this was a sign I was ready to move past the betrayal. That sounds lovely, Theo, she replied hesitantly. The night of the dinner, I booked the private dining room at Boston's most upscale restaurant. I wanted the setting to scream special occasion. The irony wasn't lost on me. As the night approached, my stomach was a mix of nerves and anticipation. They both arrived, looking awkward. I greeted them with a smile, trying to keep my face neutral. "Thanks for coming," I said, ushering them to their seats. They exchanged anxious glances but said nothing. After we ordered, I decided to set the stage. I raised my glass. "To new beginnings," I toasted. They raised their glasses hesitantly. As the night went on, I regaled them with stories of our past, deliberately choosing the most intimate moments Alara and I shared. Every anecdote was a reminder of the life they were trying to tear apart. The climax came with dessert. I had prepared a special video montage. "A trip down memory lane," I announced, hitting play. The screen showcased happy moments, our wedding, holidays, the birth of our children. Their faces grew paler with each scene. The video ended with the text, 25 years. Was it all a game? Silence. Their faces were a picture of shock and guilt. Alara's eyes brimmed with tears. "Theo, I held up a hand to stop her. "I brought you both here not for reconciliation, but for you to truly grasp the gravity of what you did. This," I gestured to the screen, "is what you tried to destroy." Lucan was the first to break. "I'm so sorry, Theo." He looked genuinely remorseful. I nodded coldly. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." With that, I left, leaving them to grapple with their conscience. Reddit, the revenge might not have been explosive, but seeing their faces, knowing they felt even a fraction of the pain I felt, was enough for me. More updates to come. Hey again, Reddit. I left out a major detail in my last post, but I needed some time to gather my thoughts before sharing this bombshell. So, here goes. Before the dinner, while my anger was fresh from the cafe meeting with Lucan, I had an idea. I sent him a text, acting as though I was more understanding, trying to see things from his perspective. Surprisingly, he responded, and we had a lengthy conversation. Unknown to him, I recorded the entire exchange. At the pre-anniversary dinner, right after the video montage ended, and the room was heavy with guilt and remorse, I took out my phone. I announced, "There's something else I'd like everyone to hear." I played the recording. Lucan's voice filled the room, detailing their twisted game, his competition with friends, how it all started as a fun challenge and spiraled into something deeper. The raw confession, every word dripping with remorse and guilt, echoed through the silent room. All eyes turned to Lucan. His confident demeanor had vanished, replaced by sheer embarrassment. He looked like he wished the ground would swallow him whole. Alara, on the other hand, was in shock. It seemed she was unaware of the game Lucan and his friends had played. The look she gave him was a mix of hurt and betrayal. She had been played, just like me. "Lucan? Why?" she whispered, voice shaky. Lucan, for once, was speechless. The weight of the truth hung heavily in the room. I took a deep breath. "I wanted all of you to know the truth, to understand the gravity of the game they played with our lives," I said, looking directly at Lucan. The rest of the evening was a blur. People were outraged, whispering among themselves. Some consoled Alara, while others cast judgmental glances at Lucan. The unity in their betrayal had shattered, and the tables had turned. I left the restaurant with a sense of closure. While the pain was far from over, unveiling the truth was a step toward healing. All right, Reddit, another update. This one is heavy. A couple of days after the dinner reveal, I found myself holding the 2 tickets to Fiji. A trip that was supposed to be a celebration of our love, now a painful reminder of what had been lost. My heart ached thinking of the surprise I'd planned, the dreams shattered. I called Alara, asking to meet. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. We decided on a small park near our home, where we'd taken our kids countless times when they were younger, a place filled with memories of simpler times. She was already there when I arrived, looking forlorn. The vibrant, confident woman I fell in love with seemed to have faded away. Without a word, I took out the tickets, holding them in front of her. Her eyes widened in realization. "Fiji?" she whispered. I nodded, fighting back tears. This was supposed to be our special surprise, a reminder of our love. But things have changed. My voice cracked. It doesn't mean what it once did. She looked at the tickets, tears streaming down her face. "Theo, I held up a hand to stop her. I thought about going alone, but then I figured you might want to go. Maybe Lucan would like to join you." The words came out colder than I intended, but I was running on raw emotion. I handed her one of the tickets. She took it, her hand trembling. The weight of the symbolic gesture wasn't lost on either of us. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but it felt empty. Everything did. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "Maybe this trip will give you clarity, Alara. Maybe it'll help you find whatever it is you're looking for." I turned away, leaving her standing there amidst the memories of our past. The Fiji trip, once a symbol of love, was now a parting gift of sorts. Hey again, Reddit. It's Theo. I'm typing this from a small cafe in Fiji, overlooking the most pristine beach you can imagine. As the waves roll in, I can't help but reflect on everything that has happened. Fiji. I had envisioned this trip so differently in my mind. Warm laughter, the intertwining of hands, and loving glances shared between Alara and me. But the reality, it's just me, the vast ocean, and a heart trying to piece itself back together. The beauty here is unparalleled. Every morning I watch the sunrise, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold, yet there's a void, an emptiness that can't be filled by even the most breathtaking vistas. Each sunset reminds me that another day has passed, another day where the wound is still fresh. I've met many people here, from all walks of life. A couple celebrating their honeymoon, a family on a holiday, and an old man, Mr. Patea, who's lived in Fiji his entire life. It was him who shared a piece of wisdom that resonated deeply. Sometimes the waves crash hard, young man, but the ocean always finds its calm again. At first I thought he was talking about the sea, but as days went by, I understood. It was about life, about love, about the ups and downs we all face. Alara and Lucan never crossed paths with me here, and while a part of me dreaded running into them, another part, perhaps masochistically, hoped to. I wanted to see if they had found happiness in their betrayal, if it was worth it. But as the days passed, the pain started to ebb, replaced by a realization. Our love story, as beautiful as it was, had reached its final chapter. Trust, the very foundation of our relationship, was shattered, and no trip, no amount of time, could piece it back to its original form. Tomorrow, I head back home, but not to the same life. I've decided to start anew, a fresh beginning, away from the shadows of the past. Where? I haven't decided yet, but wherever it is, I'll carry the lessons of Fiji with me. So, Reddit, this might be my last update on this chapter of my life. Thanks for being with me through the highs and lows. The journey's far from over, but at least I know I'm not walking it alone. Edit. To those who messaged with kind words, stories, and advice, thank you. It means more than words can express.
Caught my wife cheating with AP, so I video called his fiancé, seeking advice. Hello fellow Redditors. I find myself in a deeply distressing and confusing situation that I need to share. Recently, I discovered my wife was cheating on me with a man, her doctor to be precise. Overwhelmed with emotions and searching for some form of justice, I decided to video call AP's fiancé to expose their actions. Let me share the details of my shocking discovery and seek your advice on how to navigate this difficult time. During the video call, AP's fiancé was shocked and devastated to learn about the affair. She thanked me for bringing it to her attention and expressed her gratitude for my honesty. Now, I am grappling with the aftermath of this revelation and need guidance on how to handle the situation moving forward. First, some context. My name is David, 45, and my lovely wife, Mia, aged 33. My wife and I have been married for 6 years and have been through ups and downs, as any couple does. We had been trying to have kids for the longest time that I can remember, but all in vain. We had consulted various doctors and explored different fertility treatments, but unfortunately, none of them were successful. It was due to the ages we were in that we faced difficulties in conceiving. We realized that age can play a significant role in fertility, especially for women over 30. Despite the challenges we faced, we never lost hope and continued to support each other on this journey. I could see that my wife was slowly going into depression with the realization that we might not be able to have our own kids. We researched and educated ourselves about alternative options such as adoption or surrogacy, keeping an open mind to different paths to parenthood. Eventually, we made the decision to pursue in vitro fertilization (IVF) as our last attempt to conceive a child. I had brought the topic of adoption a couple of times in front of my wife. She vehemently dismissed it. My wife had been adamant on not to go the adoption route as she wanted a baby that was actually a part of her. She believed that the biological connection was crucial for her to fully experience motherhood. Despite her strong stance, I couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment as I yearned to start a family and provide a loving home for a child in need. Days went by without much progress on the kids' front. We started losing hope. Just as when things were going south, I was trying to find ways to cheer my wife on. I entered my house one day, surprised at the loud music blasting from the speakers. The rhythmic beats filled every corner, making it impossible to ignore. Curiosity piqued, I followed the sound to find my wife dancing energetically in the living room. She motioned me to join her. As I joined her in the impromptu dance party, a wave of joy washed over me. The infectious rhythm and my wife's carefree movements instantly lifted my spirits, creating a moment of pure bliss in our humble abode. We fell onto the bed, tired and sweaty. We looked at each other and broke into laughter. It had been so long that we enjoyed ourselves. The weight of the world seemed to lift off our shoulders in that moment, as we relished in the pure joy and freedom of laughter. It was a much-needed reminder of the importance of taking time for ourselves and finding happiness amidst life's chaos. As we caught our breath, I asked her what the occasion was. She propped herself up, brimming with radiance. She pulled out a brochure from the side table and showed it to me. She started speaking so fast in all her excitement that it was difficult for me to comprehend and keep up with it. I asked her to breathe and make me understand. She said that she had been researching a lot of fertility clinics in the past months. She finally found one that could yield some positive results in our case. She looked so happy and elated that I did not want to ruin her spirits with my pessimism. We agreed to check it out over the weekend. The day had come when we were to visit the clinic. Though it was too far away from where we lived, I did not mind driving because I knew it was for a good cause. As we embarked on the journey, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation and hope, knowing that this visit could potentially bring positive changes to our lives. After 3 hours of driving with a few pit stops, we finally arrived at the clinic. The clinic stood tall and welcoming, its modern architecture blending seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. Stepping out of the car, I could sense a mix of nervousness and excitement in the air, looking forward to this new adventure. We were asked to wait for a while until the doctor made himself available. During the wait time, we were given a bunch of papers to fill in details and what we were wishing to fulfill with our visit today. A file was made under our name and sent over to the doctor for initial review. The papers included questions about our medical history, current symptoms, and any medications we were taking. Additionally, we were asked to provide our insurance information and sign consent forms for any necessary procedures. Once the doctor received our file, they would have a better understanding of our needs and be able to provide more personalized care during the visit. After what felt like a few hours, we were shown into the doctor's cabin. We were greeted by the doctor, who introduced himself as Patrick. He was a very young and handsome doctor. A little too young to be called an expert in the field, that was just my thought. As he began to examine us, I couldn't help but wonder if his youthful appearance would affect his ability to provide proper medical care. However, as he spoke confidently about our symptoms and asked insightful questions, my initial doubts started to fade away. He made us run through the process that he felt would be the most effective in diagnosing our condition. He explained each step thoroughly, ensuring that we understood the purpose and significance of each test or examination. Additionally, he took the time to address any concerns or uncertainties we had, further instilling trust in his expertise. We felt quite reassured and without a thought agreed to go ahead with the procedure. We started with our treatment immediately. We gave them the necessary tests to determine the best course of action. Once the results were in, he tailored a treatment plan to address our specific needs and began administering the appropriate medications. We were asked to check in after a month to see any changes in our body. During the check-in, he thoroughly evaluated our progress and made any necessary adjustments to the treatment plan. Additionally, he provided us with valuable guidance on lifestyle changes that could further enhance our chances of conceiving. A few sessions into the treatment, Patrick had excused me from attending the sessions. Going forward, it would be just my wife who would be required to check in as she was the one who needs to be physically healthy to conceive. I was to continue taking the same medication going forward. Patrick had determined that my presence at the sessions was no longer necessary, as my wife's physical health was the primary focus for conception. From that point on, my role shifted to providing support and ensuring she stayed on track with her medication regimen. I trusted Patrick's expertise and understood the importance of prioritizing my wife's well-being in our journey towards starting a family. I did find this a little weird, but I was willing to take any steps that could help us start a family. As days progressed, my wife started spending more and more sessions with Patrick. She seemed to be enjoying his company and finding solace in their conversations. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy, wondering what they were discussing that she couldn't share with me. My wife reassured me that she has been seeing a lot of positive changes in her body through the sessions that had been planned by Patrick. She said that these sessions were actually helping her overcome some physical discomfort she had been experiencing for a while. As her partner, I wanted to support her in any way I could, so I decided to trust her judgment and give the doctor the benefit of the doubt. I still felt that she was praising him a little too much for my comfort. However, I understood that she was going through a difficult time and needed to feel confident in her choice of doctor. Despite my reservations, I chose to respect her decision and be there for her every step of the way. However, I never imagined that infidelity would become an issue in our relationship. Suspicion crept into my mind when I noticed my wife's unusual behavior and secretive phone conversations with Patrick. Initially, she would come home and discuss in detail about each session that she had been to, what were the tests conducted, how it went, and how she felt after each session. Gradually, the details started declining and she shared less and less with me. I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease as her communication with Patrick seemed to increase while her openness with me dwindled. It was as if a wall had been erected between us, leaving me questioning the true nature of their relationship and the reasons behind her sudden change in behavior. Unable to ignore my gut feeling, I began investigating discreetly. I started paying closer attention to her schedule and noticed inconsistencies in her whereabouts. Additionally, I discovered unfamiliar text messages and social media interactions that raised further doubts about her faithfulness. As I delved deeper into my investigation, I stumbled upon a series of late-night phone calls she had been receiving. The secretive nature of these conversations only intensified my suspicions, leaving me even more convinced that something was amiss in their relationship. It did not look like an ordinary patient-doctor relationship. The hushed tones and hurried exchanges during these phone calls hinted at a hidden agenda, raising questions about the true nature of their connection. The doctor's involvement seemed to extend beyond professional boundaries. In a fit of desperation, I considered confronting Patrick himself, but I ultimately decided it would be more impactful to involve his fiancée. My reasoning was that if someone alerted me to my wife's affair, I would appreciate the heads-up. With that in mind, I found his fiancée's contact information from the unending chats that were exchanged between them. I saved it on my phone and waited for the right moment to disclose this. As days went by, I couldn't shake off the feeling of guilt and uncertainty about my plan. However, the thought of potentially saving someone from heartbreak and betrayal kept pushing me forward. Later that week, my wife informed me that she has an appointment set up for another session with Patrick on Friday. I tried to act cool and wished her the best for her session. Also told her that I hope we can see some positive results soon. She gave a hug and said that surely soon we will probably have good news to share. Feeling a mix of anticipation and curiosity, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of breakthroughs my wife might experience during her session with Patrick. I was waiting anxiously for Friday to come by. Just like every day, I waved my wife goodbye and left for work. I hid myself in the next block so that I could follow her around once she left the house. As I watched her drive away, a feeling of unease washed over me. I did not have the heart to witness something that might break my heart. I followed her car through a safe distance, making sure that I remained unnoticed by her. Instead of taking the highway towards the clinic, she took a turn that led towards a different path. I was puzzled by this and nevertheless followed her. She made a stop at a park and got out of the car. I stopped my car at a distance and observed. She seemed to be waiting for someone as she kept looking around anxiously. After a few minutes, a man approached her and got into the car. It was none other than Patrick. They started kissing each other, fondling each other's bodies with a passionate intensity. Their desire for one another was palpable, as if they had been longing for this moment for a lifetime. The car became a sanctuary for their love, enveloping them in a world of shared intimacy and unspoken promises. He started undressing her, and that's when I decided that I can't take it anymore. I was shattered and heartbroken. I decided to call Patrick's fiancée and make her witness what she was unaware of. I dialed her number and got out of the car. I started walking towards my wife's car. She picked up and was puzzled to see someone she did not know. I pointed the camera towards the back of the car from where she could see clearly what was happening in the car. Both Mia and Patrick were unaware of my presence and busy with enjoying each other. As she watched the live footage, her expression transformed from confusion to shock and disbelief. The realization of their betrayal hit her like a ton of bricks, leaving her speechless and unable to comprehend the depth of their deception. It was her scream that brought them to their senses as they realized what was happening. My wife quickly grabbed her top to cover herself. I disconnected the call and started walking towards my car. My wife quickly dressed herself and ran out of her car towards me. She said that she did not mean to hide things from me. All she wanted was to have a kid of her own. But looking at our results, it was impossible to have a baby by ourselves. Patrick suggested that he could help us in this situation. I could not believe that this is the kind of help he suggested, and my wife of 6 years had agreed to such an absurd plan. He is a doctor, for God's sake. How could he suggest having sex with a patient and getting her pregnant without getting caught by her husband? Did she not trust me enough to take my help and discuss this with me so that we would be dealing with this phase together like always? And how would they be able to explain the sexting and the nude pictures that they were sharing with each other? I could read through the bullshit they were trying to throw at me. All I wanted was for them to accept that they were both cheating their partners and having an affair behind their backs. Now I find myself in a whirlwind of emotions, uncertain of which steps to take next. My trust in my wife has been shattered, and rebuilding it seems like a daunting task. Part of me wants to seek separation or divorce, but I also can't help but wonder if there is a possibility for healing and resolution. I love my wife. I know that she was blinded by her desire to have kids, but that does not give her the right to have an affair with a doctor. It just makes me sick thinking about it. So, dear Redditors, I turn to you for advice, support, and guidance. Have any of you experienced a similar situation? How did you navigate the emotional roller coaster that accompanies such devastating betrayals? Should I consider reconciliation with my wife or seek a legal separation instead? How can I trust her again? And, in the case of a potential future with her, what steps should we take to rebuild our relationship? Please share your insights, personal stories, and suggestions. Your advice could make all the difference in helping me make a well-considered decision. Thank you for taking the time to read my story and for any input you may offer. TLDR, discovered my wife's infidelity with her doctor, so I decided to video call his fiancée to expose their affair. seeking advice and guidance on how to handle the aftermath, whether to consider reconciliation or separation, and how to rebuild trust in the relationship. Any personal experiences or suggestions are highly appreciated. Update: a few months have passed after the revelation of the affair. It was a difficult phase. Both parties involved in the affair had to navigate through a range of emotions, including guilt, anger, and sadness. I cannot still wrap my head around the fact that my wife would agree to such an absurd arrangement with a stranger just to have a child of her own. Patrick's fiancée requested to meet me in person to thank me as she was appreciative of the honesty with which I had shown her his true colors. She mentioned that she had noticed some red flags in his behavior lately but had no concrete evidence until my call. We had a lengthy and emotional conversation about our shared experiences, pain, and the future we now both face. She expressed her gratitude for shedding light on Patrick's true character as it helped her make an informed decision about their relationship. We discussed the importance of trust and how we can support each other moving forward, knowing that we both deserve happiness and fulfillment.